Tonight, a Vista couple falls victim to what the FBI calls an alarming trend in San Diego. They say they were scammed out of tens of thousands of dollars, and now they have nowhere to turn for help. Our Zara Barker shows us what happened and what to look out for.
I would have never thought that this would have happened.
Thursday afternoon, Crystal Kuhn says she got a call from someone claiming to be with Chase Bank.
They told me that they had some suspicious activity that they wanted me to verify. It was a purchase from a Walmart in Cleveland, Ohio for $2,043. And I explained, she said she wanted to know if that was a purchase that I had done. I said no. And she said, well, let me verify a few others. So she went and read off 3 other purchases that were actually my accounts.
Crystal says she didn't give the scammer any personal information, but the caller read off the last 4 of her own debit card number. Crystal, still concerned, asked her daughter to call the phone number that had called her to ensure it was real.
She looked it up online first and she said, yeah, it says it's a legitimate Chase account. And so I said, call it. She called it. They answered, this is Chase Bank. Went along through the thing. So I said, okay, it's got to be okay.
The scammer said she flagged the charge and needed to verify her account by sending Crystal an access code, a common practice from Chase.
Many thousands of times, I always get access codes from Chase. She sent me the access code. I looked at it. It followed through the threads of about 30 other access codes that I have that are from Chase. It all has the same exact number on the top of it. So I went ahead and proceeded with it and gave her the access code.
Despite Crystal triple checking, it was still a scam, and right then, money between her accounts were being transferred. Somehow, scammers had access to them. She immediately called the number for Chase on the back of her card, who directed her to go into a Chase Bank. She was there in minutes.
I went right up to a teller. There was nobody there. I said, I have to talk to somebody. I have active fraud going on to my account. I need an immediate freeze.
While on the phone with Chase and inside the branch, she says they didn't have anyone to help at the Carlsbad branch. She drove to Vista and then San Marcos, where they tried to help. They say they flagged her account, but says the tellers had a hard time getting through, and it was too late.
I was there for probably about 45 minutes to an hour with her still trying to get a freeze on my account. She couldn't do it. She goes, I can't believe this is happening. I cannot get anybody to try to put a freeze. And she goes, I don't mean to alert you, but there's been a $49,500 wire transfer initiated from your account. I said, are you kidding? And so I really started to panic.
The Kuhns claim despite proactively trying to stop the fraud, Chase's red tape slowed the process and they didn't get a freeze on their account until 4.5 hours after the fraud began, despite trying to stop this from happening.
Had the accounts been frozen in the first 5 minutes when I asked for it to be frozen, we would not be, or even in the second bank, or even at the beginning of the third bank, we would not be in this situation. And now we're out $49,000.
The Kuhns said they're in contact with the FBI, several lawyers, and have opened a case with Chase, who claim the Kuhns approved this transfer.
I'm more angry with Chase Bank than I am with the scammers because of how much Chase Bank failed us as a customer.
Chase Bank said in a statement, quote, these types of scams are heartbreaking. Beware of new contacts asking you for codes. They went on to say, like cash, wires are final payments and are rarely successfully recalled once sent. Chase Bank says that scammers are able to spoof other people's phone numbers, so make sure you're talking with a legitimate representative by calling the number on the back of your debit or credit card. Now, the couple says they've been in contact with the FBI, who are planning to investigate this case as well. We contacted the FBI's local branch here in San Diego, and they said they have seen an alarming number of financial scams.
A couple in Golden scammed out of nearly $140,000 through a sophisticated phishing scam. The question now, can Chase Bank help them recover their money? By the time a Jefferson County man realized that the Chase Bank fraud team that he was talking to was actually the scammers themselves, he was out more than $137,000.
Yeah, problem solver investigative reporter Rob Lowe spoke to the FBI. The couple scammed and Chase Bank about a fraud so clever that it could happen to any of us.
Yeah, $137,000 is a loss nobody can absorb. Chase Bank is still investigating to see if it can recover any of the funds, but that money's likely overseas. Scott and Kate Zoll want you to know what happened to them so that it doesn't happen to you.
So there were 11 wire transfers in total, 2 on our personal accounts, 9 on our business accounts. We lost close to $140,000.
How devastating is that for you, Kate?
Every day we just wake up and feel like we're living kind of a nightmare right now.
What happened to Scott and Kate Zoll began with a text to Scott's phone, supposedly from Chase Alerts, asking, did you attempt to send a wire transfer for the amount of $4,500?
At that point, before I did anything else, I reached out to my business partners and asked if they had initiated a wire. They had not, so I then called the bank branch to see if they could see any activity on my account.
That was smart. Chase Bank immediately gave him the number to its fraud department. But what happened next was his big mistake.
At that point, I acknowledged the text that came through said no, we did not initiate this wire. Got a text back immediately saying somebody from the Chase fraud team will be in contact with you. Probably within 30 seconds, I received a phone call from the exact number that the branch had just given me.
What Scott never guessed is the call from Chase Alerts saying a representative will be contacting you shortly was actually the scammers who had spoofed the Chase fraud number, leaving Scott to think he was talking with Chase Bank.
And at one point I even called the Chase line because the phone number dropped, and I called the Chase fraud line. And I was frustrated with actual Chase because they couldn't see the conversations that were happening. And within a minute, you know, the people that were scamming us actually called back, and I'm like, great, these people know what they're talking about. I'm gonna go back to this call.
Scott isn't sure how, but says the scammers already had his bank account number and knew how much money he had. All they needed from Scott was a one-time passcode that he did in fact receive via text from real Chase, only to then unwittingly share it with the scammer who was pretending to be Chase Bank. That phone call would cost him $137,130.
Just wake up and start all over again to try to accept that all our money's gone. And I'm not hopeful at this point in the journey that we're gonna see any of it again.
The most recent FBI stats show in 2022, 405 Colorado phishing victims lost nearly $500,000, and 467 spoofing victims lost $2 million.
The technology does exist that they can spoof phone numbers from anywhere in the world and make it look like it's a Chase fraud department.
Brian Blosser is a special agent with the FBI who says phishing and spoofing scams are getting more sophisticated by the day.
Be very leery of unsolicited text messages, phone calls, or a pop-up or an email that you've got a fraudulent charge in your account.
Special Agent Blosser says once a person realizes they've been scammed, do exactly what the Zolls did. Contact your bank with a number you trust, either from your bank statement or the back of your credit card, to initiate a wire recall, and file a report with the FBI at ic3.gov.
The best advice that I would relay would be, hey, take a second, because a lot of the times the scammers are going to try to create the persona that there's an urgent need. You have to act now.
If I would have just slowed down and looked at some of the other indicators, but we're talking, you know, over $100,000, like you want to act fast or you think you need to.
In a statement, Chase Bank told the problem solvers, these types of scams are heartbreaking. Beware of new contacts asking you for codes, access to your device, or to send them, yourself, or anyone else money to prevent fraud. Chase, other banks, law enforcement, and technology companies won't ask you to do this, but scammers will. Like cash, wires are final payments and are rarely successfully recalled once sent.
I have to work 10 times harder than I was working, you know, to get back to where I was, not even ahead, just to get back to where we were.
There is a special place in hell for the people that can do this to someone.
Cindy Little of Spring Branch is a lot more than a little furious over the way almost $8,000 was stolen from her Chase Bank account through a series of money transactions through Zelle, the peer-to-peer money transfer service. It all started the day after Christmas.
I got an alert on my phone that I'd added a recipient on Zelle that I did not add. Questions, call this number. Called that number, it was Chase. I said, I don't know who this person is, but they've already taken $1,000 out of my account. And they said, yes, this is fraud, we'll give you the money back.
Cindy says the money was returned within days by Chase, but 1 month later, it happened again. She got a text telling her again she'd approved sending money to someone she'd never even heard of.
I went on my Chase account, they had already taken out $1,000 again. Same thing, same routine, call Chase, I don't know who this person is. Please lock my account, make sure this doesn't happen again. No problem, your account's secure, everything is good.
But it wasn't good at all. Over the next 3 days, scam artists hacked Cindy's Zelle for $1,500, then another $5,400, then another $1,000 for a grand total of $7,900.
So within 3 days, There were 7 transactions, 6 of which were after I had already reported it as fraud.
And how much did they take all together from you?
$7,900.
And has Chase returned that money to your account?
No.
Since then, Cindy's filed a criminal case with the Houston Police Department, complaints to the FBI and the Federal Trade Commission, but Chase Bank has refused to return any money to her account, saying that Cindy herself orchestrated all of this herself and declaring they find no fraud whatsoever.
Finally, at one point, they said you probably should just go ahead and admit that this was you that did this.
Coleman Ryan is a cyber detective with K. Griff Investigations who specializes in cyber crimes, and he has the #1 way all of us can protect ourselves from ripoffs like this one.
What is the best thing we can do, Coleman, to protect ourselves from getting hacked the way that Cindy has?
A 2-step verification, multi-factor authentication, it's kind of the same thing. It's one more factor that changes that's never the same. What that means is if someone gets your username and password, they're still not going to be able to get in, and the victim's going to know about it.
Yeah, no doubt. 2-step verification is the way to go. Make sure you get it if you have a Zelle account. Now, I'm not just reporting on what happened to Cindy here. I'm trying to fix this for her. I'm trying to get Chase Bank to return that close to $8,000 that was taken from her account so she doesn't lose all of that money. I've already talked to Chase officials today, explained to them what has happened, and they're telling me simply right now, we're looking into this case.